Dear Mayor Robertson and councillors, it is a privilege to be here. I want to thank the city staff and all of those involved for all the work they have done to bring this to this point. Chinatown's future is at a critical juncture. Judging by the large number of both young and old who spoke their minds at the forum, it is heartening to conclude that apathy has been replaced by enthusiasm and passion. It is saying, people do care. My name is Carol Lee, and I'm a second-generation Chinese Canadian. My grandparents were born in China, coming to Canada in the early 1900s. My paternal grandfather was considered one of the pioneers of Chinatown, along with H.Y. Louis, the grandfather of Brant Louis. My maternal grandfather came to Canada in the early 1900s after paying the head tax. He tried to get a job as a cook at a logging camp up the coast of BC, but when he arrived, he was told they didn't hire Chinese. With my grandmother, they managed to get to Alert Bay, where my mother was born. There, for 40 years, he ran a general store. My family's stories are part of the fabric that makes up our rich Chinese Canadian history. Chinatown is the physical legacy of this history. It was established in 1885, a mere 8 years after Confederation. Chinatown is an important part of our collective history and the history of our nation. But today I am not speaking to you as an individual. As chairperson of the Vancouver Chinatown Revitalization Committee, I'm trying to convey to you the collective opinion of the VCRC. As many of you know, the VCRC was originally established by the City of Vancouver in 2002 to help the city in liaising with Chinatown. It has repeatedly demonstrated its effectiveness and usefulness. As an example of this working relationship, the City Planning Department asked VCRC to co-host 2 Chinatown character workshops. The first on February the 13th, 2015, and the second one on February the 25th, 2015, to discuss the impact of the 2011 zoning changes on Chinatown character. This concern was raised in the fall of 2014 after the 2 large condo buildings at Keefer in Maine had been approved, one at 9 stories and a 7 FSR, and the second one at 17 stories and an 8 FSR, in a historic neighborhood where 60 feet was the maximum height, and the FSR was closer to 2 or 3. Over the next 2 years of review and analysis, highlights of staff's recommendations were circulated on May 19, 2017, entitled Chinatown Development Policy Changes, Progress Update from Staff to Community. Here is a summary of the recommendations, which I'm sure a lot of you have already seen, but let me highlight for you a few of the salient points. Planning understands the feeling of the community that, number 1, new developments are out of scale and lack character. Number 2, trading character for public benefits is not worth it. The pace of development puts pressure on existing businesses and Chinese seniors. As a result, the Planning Department is recommending canceling this rezoning policy. Tall and wide buildings like this one will no longer be considered. 90 feet will be the maximum height allowed. We further understand that the Planning Department will be making the recommendation to Council to adopt the new development policy on June 13th. Hopefully, it will be approved by Council on July 11th. Curiously, 105 Keefer was allowed to proceed as it was already in stream. So the argument is not about how much CAC is offered before it is worth our while. Rather, the point is, can we afford to have the extra height to allow that to set an example of how cultural and heritage area can be changed for a price? In addition, there doesn't seem to be a lot of commercial benefit for the applicant, since the square footage they gain is approximately the same amount they're being offered for the amount that they're offering for social housing. At VCRC, we realize this very generous gesture, but feel that is unnecessary. I have heard a few councillors pose the question, if one is against the rezoning, are you against seniors housing? Personally, I think this is a very unfair question. We have found out the hard way that these new large buildings that were supposed to revitalize the community had an economic impact opposite of what it was supposed to do. They accelerated the wave of gentrification that has been sweeping across Chinatown and pushed out the very people it was supposed to help. So what do we do now? Can we come up with a better solution? Can we not find a way to have both affordable housing and retain our cultural heritage? It is not simple no or yes answer, but takes a lot of thought and creativity. Perhaps if you're willing to take a chance, we can hold the money that BC Housing is willing to contribute and work together for a better site for the seniors' housing that is less sensitive and where the additional height won't affect the Memorial Square, Sun Yat-sen Garden, and the Chinese Cultural Center.
So you're over your time. If you could
Okay,
wrap up in
I'll
a sentence.
just maybe say one more thing then. The viaducts will be coming down shortly, and most of the land, if we remember, was expropriated by the Chinese. Chinatown was instrumental in mobilizing support to allow council to have them removed. Our motto then was, don't forget Chinatown. I hope you haven't.
Okay, thanks. Councillor Carr, question?